everyone. Welcome to yet another fantastic episode of SheSight podcast, where we interview and introduce fantastic women from across the globe. In today's episode, I have yet another impact woman. That's what I would like to call her, because she is trying to impact in her own ways of entrepreneurship, helping companies as well as individuals realize their potentials in a very, very different manner. So let's hear her growth journey as well as her contribution in the field of entrepreneurship. Let's put our hands together and welcome Ms. Deepa Kartha. Deepa is the founder of an IT company, primarily developing and promoting a service or software or an app. I mean, I think it's better I allow her to explain what she does, but basically I know that she's the founder of Journyz. So let's hear the journey of Deepa as well as her app, Journyz. Deepa, welcome to the show. Welcome to SheSight's podcast series. And it's really amazing to have you here today. Let's get started with an introduction. I would like you to introduce yourself to the audience in 5 sentences.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Chandra. It is very exciting to be here. So my name is Deepa. I am originally from Kerala. I've been in the US for 25 plus years. After working in financial services and fintech for a long period of time, I decided to start my software as a services company with a product called Journyz. I'm sure we'll talk more about it, but this is really, it's really a super app, a way for companies and leaders to create little applications to for their teams, for their processes and their systems, and pulling together everything that is required to motivate them as well. So it is a interesting and a different kind of software platform. I'm very excited to be here.
That's wonderful. That's a little more than 5 sentences. I'm just kidding.
You didn't see the and the comma in there. That's why.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, so, being a women entrepreneur, and that's what we're going to talk more today, especially in the technology field, right? You came from the fintech background, and that's even more exciting. There are a lot of women who start their career in banking or in fintech in the early stages. But we see that after a while, they actually either they get stagnated, and very few of them actually, like you, people like you, who actually come out with something of their own to become an entrepreneur. So how did that spark come in you? When did you realize that you should be an entrepreneur?
Good question, Chandra. So I started in banking, credit cards and banking technology. The interesting thing about being in a bank or being in financial services is that the technology is amazing. Right? Because, people develop a lot of technology to make more money, right? So in financial services, being in technology is a fun place to be.
Yeah.
On one hand, right? And the amount of change that keeps happening in the industry and the amount of change that keeps happening in the way we do things is so fast that at any given point of time, you will find that the teams are really on a learning curve. So it's not that, hey, it's not like an assembly line where we figure everything out, everybody's at their highest potential and we keep going. Yeah. Technology changes, products change. So any given point of time, people in a team are at different stages of a learning curve, right? So that is something that I had to, deal with as I was developing teams, that, we constantly had to get the teams to be, learning on a daily basis. And it was kind of hard because systems are not set up to do that. Software is not set up for learning also, right? Software is set up for a specific purpose and a specific purpose alone. So the reason why I actually moved from banking and financial services and fintech into this field is that, it is really not about the technology. It is really how technology, processes, people, all of it comes together that really gets, that makes things happen. And that is, I used to do it manually in my own way, but I wanted to do it in a more systematic fashion. So that's the reason why I decided to make the jump.
I mean, decision is great, but being an entrepreneur, being a woman entrepreneur, and that too in the technology field, I know you would have definitely crossed several levels of hurdles, right from the mental decision hurdle, I mean, the mental block that you have initially, to various other systemic hurdles you might have had. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I, in my wildest dreams for several years, never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I
Mhm.
thought I was the company man, the
Yeah.
company girl, right? So I was, very loyal to my company, and I was really happy there. And so that went on for a while. And I think after a point of time, you reach a point where you realize that you're really not learning anything much.
Mhm.
You are, even though the technology is changing, products are changing, really what you do on a daily life is very, very similar.
Yeah.
It got to be a little boring after a while. And what I realized is that even though I'm a technologist, and even though that is, my capability, I am more excited in the process and the people part of it.
Mm.
And it happened to be in banking, or it happened to be in fintech. So
Mm.
that is really what made my mind about wanting to be an entrepreneur. It is more like, I don't see myself doing this for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Mm.
I couldn't see it.
Mm.
Right. So that's why I decided to, become an entrepreneur. You're absolutely right. It is a big mental block. It's a big mental hurdle, and it is totally different from working in a large organization, right?
Right.
Because in a large organization, you have your lane and you stick to the lane. Maybe you go a little bit off here and there, but you stick to the lane. And so, what it does for you is that you develop the expertise and you kind of know what you're doing.
Mm.
But as an entrepreneur, every day you're in a learning, right? So you are always at a point of time where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing today. What I'm doing today, I really don't know. So I'm going to go dive in, learn about it, and figure it out. So that constant learning is exciting, but it is very challenging as
Of course. And I think that is one reason why many women are still, concerned or apprehensive about taking entrepreneurship or business as a career. But people like you could definitely motivate others with your story. Now, let's talk more about your Journyz app.
well.
What is it that, I mean, you told me that it is a super app. So, what is that super app about?
Right. So, let's, you know, what I was talking about like 2 minutes ago, which is things are constantly changing, right? Things are constantly changing no matter what the industry is. And what ends up happening is that you use tools, but the minute you start using tools and the changes are constantly happening, the reality is that for you to be effective and efficient, you have to constantly rework the tools, right? Because what you created today does not work for you next week, next month. So, what we created with Journyz is actually a platform where you can um, custom build apps based on what you need to do at any given point of time. So, let's take an example of a company initiative. Let's say it is innovation, right? Or let's say it's cost savings or what have you. Typically, what people do is they use multiple systems to do it, right? Or you're going to talk in a chat application, you're going to write your uh, database, it might be in a spreadsheet, you're going to collaborate somewhere, you're going to do something manually, you're going to use a whiteboard, and somebody is really pulling it all together, right? So there is a lot of manual work that is required to really push an organization forward when you're talking about change initiatives. So what Journyz does is it's a very flexible platform where companies can actually create everything around an initiative in one single place,
Hmm.
right? Or you want a portal to see everything that's going on? Sure. You want to collect information? Great. You want to create reporting? Awesome. You want to motivate people to do more? Great. There is gamification,
Hmm.
right? So everything that is required for an initiative, if you're able to pull it together in a configurable manner versus having to code it every single time. So that is really what the difference is, and that really truly does not exist
Yeah.
at this point of time. People kind of put bubble gum and scotch tape and gum and everything together and create something and then push it up the hill.
That's brilliant. So you spoke about gamification briefly, and would you like to tell? I mean, of course, I know gamification is like an in thing when it comes to corporate employee engagement and so many other things right now, and everywhere we talk about gamification. So, how have you been able to incorporate those principles into your app?
Oh, absolutely. So, interestingly, people think of gamification in the, when you're thinking of like games, like computer games or video games or what have you, right? But really, what it is talking to is the base need of a human being to want to achieve, right? To feel appreciated, to have, to overcome that sense of FOMO. So it is really appealing to the base human spirit.
Mhm.
So let's take an example of a sales organization.
Yeah.
Okay, and for sales, for example, you have to do certain things every single day.
Yeah.
You have to talk to 100 people
Yeah.
to really close with one person, right?
Right.
And the talking to the 100 people is really painful.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do that, right? Because nobody wants to
Mundane task.
feel that
Clear the
rejection,
node.
right? Nobody wants to feel rejected over and over again. So now, if you gamify that and say, hey, you have a sales team,
Mhm.
right? And you are gamifying it so that the activities that typically are feel thankless,
Mhm.
you're getting points for that.
Ah,
Like making a cold call, reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn. Let's
yeah.
say that you're getting points for that. And as a team, you're encouraging those activities. So now, on the one hand, you're really getting rejection from the people that you're reaching out to. But on the other hand, you're seeing the points, the achievements, the badges, and the team also gets that feeling of, hey, we are actually in this together,
Yeah.
and these activities are what is going to result in our closing.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, again, something like sales or operations, it is not like doing a project where you did 10 things and the project is done.
Yeah.
You could do 500 things, you could still not have close,
Correct. Exactly.
right? So this is really situations where it's either processes that you have to do, or it could be things where you're trying to change people's habits.
Hmm.
You used to work a certain way, you're going to have to change it a different way, but people are on autopilot and they don't want to change. So
Hmm.
this is a mechanism to make people change their habit or break their habits.
That's wonderful. In fact, gamification is if it is rightly used, as you rightly said, it's about changing the habits as well as it has both positive and negative. If you look at the actual game part of it, it is supposedly to be very addictive. But you are
Right.
actually using the addiction part of it or the excitement part of a game into doing something good, that's
Exactly.
what the
Exactly.
organization wants or what your work demands. I think it's also relevant to note that the Gen Zs as well as we are the millennial workforce that we are dealing with likes all these activities or game
Hmm.
aspect of it, and many companies and many software these days are coming with that. Now let's get back into from the work side. Let's get into your personal side. You
Absolutely.
are, you've been an entrepreneur for a while now, and you set up your company in the US. It'll be great to know how, because you have been living in the US, so that's how you
Hmm.
set it up here. But
Hmm.
there will be a lot of immigrant women, especially Indian women, who are still considering whether to start or not. What will be your advice to them, and how should they start up? What is the ecosystem like? Would you like to share something like that?
Yes, sure. So I think let's start from the beginning of, I've heard this from a few women as to, hey, I want to start something.
Hmm.
I think we need to start with what is that something that you're looking for?
Yeah.
Is it a startup? Is it a hobby business? Is it a franchise? What is it? And what is the scale that you're looking for, right? Because you could, you can work for a company or you can have your own business and make a steady income. Is that what you're looking to do? So it's really kind of boils down to what is your intention in starting the business? Are
Exactly.
you looking to not depend on companies? Are you looking to be independent? Are you looking for something to do, after retirement? So start with that because
Correct.
that is actually what's going to determine what you do, right?
Yeah.
And with all of these scenarios, there are plenty of resources to help you with this, anywhere from the Small Business Development Corporation, if you're starting a small business, to incubators and accelerators and things like that.
Right.
So again, start with, what are you looking to do? What is the intention behind what you're looking to do? And be very honest with yourself as to, what you want and what are you willing to give up for it, because working in a company is comfortable.
Correct.
Right? It's very comfortable. I mean,
You get the paycheck every month without anything.
Paycheck is nice. As an entrepreneur, you may or may not get a paycheck, right? and to give up that paycheck, because again, each person has to figure out what do they want in life, right? If what they want in life is, I want a good life, I want this, I want that, working in a company, there's nothing wrong with it. That's perfect.
Perfect, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think it really has to do with, what do you really want to do, and do you really want it? And then how do you envision this? Are you looking to build the next Google? Yeah. Or are you looking to build a franchise? Are you looking for a steady income? So you have to figure all of that. And there are resources that are available for each one of these items. Right. I mean, it is the government, state governments, local, private enterprises. There's plenty of resources available. Right. And you just
before that, because you touched upon this point, I would like to say that for women who are really totally confused, what is that scale? Even, I do a lot of coaching for small business owners, and they come, as you rightly said, I want to start a business, but should it be a small business? Should it be, a hobby business? Or should it be a startup? Or should it be franchisee? Should it be a big initiative? So all that, I think, depends on the person and their values, preferences, their socio-economic conditions. So many other things are there. However, I think that is where the role of coaches comes in. Like, there are a lot of life coaches and business coaches who can actually help you figure out that part of it. I think to add on to the conversation, even in my case, when I started my entrepreneurship journey, a couple of things which I did for myself was taking these kinds of coaching sessions where I could really understand that, yes, I am an entrepreneur and I should be doing this when I had confusions, because it's, as you said, it's like a very confusing journey when you are starting up something, or when you are not sure, when you are not making any progress. And that is when you get confused, whether you're on the right track. Oh my God, I shouldn't have left my job. At least if I had continued there, I would have become the vice president by now. So that's when that, I think, one of the things that women can do for themselves is to take the help of some coaches who can guide you with your personal preferences and other things. So self-awareness is the first step, is what Deepa, as well as I also 100% agree to that. And the next step is to, as you said, the resources part of it. In US, I think all kinds of resources are available. It's all
there are all kinds of resources.
Yeah.
And the interesting part, though, is that, you are going to get advice from so many people. It is going to be, and the thing that I've realized is that don't ask advice from people who have not done it before.
Exactly. This is a very important advice. Let's underline this.
Right? Because everybody loves giving advice.
Of course.
Right?
People, especially who have not been an entrepreneur before, or who have not done something of that, don't even listen to their advice. In fact, on this note, I should tell you, a couple of consultant people who approach entrepreneurs or say that I will do this, I will do that. But, when it comes to, when you ask them, okay, do one thing, I will give you 50% profit. You just go and deliver this and come. Then they'll say, no, sorry. You have to pay me so much at first, and then, I'll see, that is the risk you are taking. So an entrepreneur will never say that. That's a difference,
Yeah.
Entrepreneur will be, that's what we call a skin in the game, to actually get into this and say that, yes, I'm in this for this,
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
And that's a very important point, what you said there, Deepa, like, take the advice from the person who have actually done it. That makes a lot of
sense. And the interesting thing also is that, because you get so much advice from different people based on what they have done, right? And the kind of industries they've been in, So it is your job. The hardest part is really to filter all that and figure out what you want to do and prioritize it.
Yeah.
The issue of sometimes going to a lot of these accelerators and all of that is they dump so much information on you. You obviously cannot do it all at the same time. You just cannot.
Right.
There are, you have to figure out, are you focusing on the service or the product or the sales or whatever the case is, right? And that filtration and figuring out what you need to do, unfortunately, you have to figure that out. And that is the hardest part in the entrepreneurship journey, is to figure out, ultimately it is you.
Yeah.
You have to make the decision, you have to do the prioritization, and it's a, I mean, the buck stops there,
Mm.
right? There is nobody else. Unlike in a company, you cannot talk to your boss. You have to figure it out.
Exactly. And that's where I think the role of good partners come in. So tell, what do you think about collaboration between entrepreneurs, or, bringing in that team to
Mhm.
work together? So what has been your experience on that?
Yeah. So, in corporations and in the entrepreneurial stuff, the general tendency that people have is to say, yeah, we'll partner. You
Mm.
use my product. It's all about me.
Mm.
You use my stuff,
Mm.
right? So a lot of the times, what I have seen in the past is that when people come together for partnership, they see each other as competition.
Mm.
And when they see each other as competition, you really cannot
Grow.
proceed further.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see that this is the pie and I want to get a bigger piece of the pie, there is no partnership, there is no collaboration.
Mm.
I mean, you have to kind of set your ego aside, step back, and say, what is the pie that we want to create together?
Mm.
And you have to really spend a lot of time and mental energy trying to figure it out together
Right.
with a partner, right? Because if we say, this is what I have, take it or leave it,
Mm.
and if it doesn't exactly align with the other person, then there is nothing there. There
Correct.
is really nothing there. So I think the partnerships make a huge difference, because going, especially when you're small,
Mm.
going as a group together
Yeah.
to somebody makes a huge difference.
Right.
Chandra, I'm not sure if you've seen this movie called Gods Must Be Crazy. Have you
Mhm.
seen it by any chance? So anyway, this is a movie that's based in Africa. It's about, it's a very funny movie. If you haven't seen it, see it. So
Yeah.
anyway, there is this scene where there are two kids who are walking alone through the African, desert. And what they do is that there are hyenas there.
Mhm.
So what they do is that they actually kind of put one kid on top of the other, and they put a big branch.
Mm.
They hold up a big branch. So when the hyena sees it, looks as if, oh my God, this is a much bigger
Freedom.
animal than me,
Yeah.
right? So that whole thing of coming together and creating a larger presence is very, very critical.
Correct.
But for that, there is a lot of work that you have to do to work with your partners and create something that is a win,
Correct.
right? So that part becomes
I
really,
love that
really important.
analogy and that story. I mean, I think this is something which is a very good, important message for women also. Women entrepreneurs, especially, tend to reduce themselves to smaller versions of themselves, even in
Mhm.
business, I would say. Instead of doing bigger things or big things, many times we find that women entrepreneurs are happy at the level of small,
Right.
doing like small things. If their regular things are happening, many of
Mhm.
them are quite satisfied. But
Mhm.
probably, as you rightly said, if you have the right collaboration, come out with a new initiative or idea, or you can scale up your product or service in a little bigger manner by bringing in somebody else. So that kind of a thing, as you rightly said, women generally are afraid of taking that kind of a plunge, I would say. But
Agreed.
as you rightly said, that has to be taken, and that's how bigger things can happen. And the
Absolutely.
power
So
of
yeah.
collaboration, that's something which I also personally believe a lot. And bringing in people and different kinds of resources, it totally adds and enhances whatever is your vision, right? So
Absolutely, right? There
yeah.
is a difference between entrepreneurship, a lot of it is about taking risks, right?
Correct.
Do you have that risk propensity or not? Are you able to take risks?
Mm.
How masochistic are you?
Mm.
That's what entrepreneurship is all about. But scaling is not the same. For scaling, Either it's happening organically, for which you have to be super lucky,
Yeah,
or you need partnerships, right? And
exactly.
for partnerships to succeed, it has to be win-win, right? So you have to kind of step outside of, this is my box, this is my boundary, and open it up and see what the possibilities are for scaling, right? That is really
Exactly.
the only way.
Yeah. And I know there is a book by, I forgot the name of the author, but the book title is Slicing the Pie, where you actually talk
Ah,
about issuing
yeah.
share stakes to, bringing in as many people as partners can actually
Mhm.
scale up the idea. So that's a very
Exactly.
interesting
Yeah.
thing to look at. Okay, now let's get into little more women related thing. Of
Sure.
course, we spoke about entrepreneurship, we spoke about your journey, we spoke about your app and everything. Let's talk about what has been your experience working with other women leaders, and especially in corporates as well as in business. So and why I'm asking this question is because today morning I had a very interesting meeting or a call with a couple of researchers. One is an economist and the other are gender researchers. So they are researching, they were, asking about women businesses and how, what are the challenges they face in public procurement and those areas. So basically,
Mm.
it was basically a research conversation. However, during that conversation, this topic of what how women owned businesses can thrive, or women leadership aspect of it, and the concept of masculinity and femininity, or the so-called the business being the men's club,
Mhm.
and how women actually can enter into it. So these all topics came into the discussion. So I would like to get your perspective also. What you think are things that women generally can do to enhance their presence, as well as to obtain or get a foothold in, whether it is corporate, because you have both corporate and entrepreneurship experience, whether it is corporate or a business. How do we get that strong foothold?
Mhm. Good question, Chandra. So, my initial experience in corporate, I had very excellent women leaders that I could look up to.
Mhm.
So the experience that I had, I would say the first few years in my career was amazing,
Mhm.
right? Because, you know, as you were saying earlier, a lot of the times the expectation of corporate culture is very masculine, right? Everything is kind of leading from the front, and I'm the boss and you listen to me. There's a lot of that, right? In different flavors and versions of that, right? Whereas when we have women leaders, there is a little bit more, the culture is a little bit more collaborative. But the higher you go in an organization, especially if you have a lot of, again, very high achieving kind of people, what I have seen is that it ends up being more and more and more masculine. You have to, if you are collaborative, and if you are, in a listening mode versus a talking mode all the time, it is, you know, it is treated as being a little weak. It is treated as being a little different. And in a corporate culture, being different is not necessarily a good thing. I
Correct.
mean, the more you are alike in a culture, the better it is, right? So if everybody is high charging, you need to be high charging, right? So if you kind of take a step back and say, guys, hold on, have you thought about it in a different way? It is not necessarily received as, oh, this person has high EQ. No, it is
it is received as, oh, this person is so lazy, laid back.
so weak, right? So that's been my experience, and some of the experiences have not been great, especially the higher up you go in an organization. So where women can be helpful is, as they are getting into these positions, start introducing that kind of, don't have to behave like men. Start introducing those kind of collaborative listening, take ideas from people, diverse opinions, start
Empathy.
getting the team engaged, and get the team to be good, not to have one or two or three superstars and everybody follows them. So I think that is what will really help, really help the culture. Because if everybody wants to be a superstar, there isn't enough space there. But if everybody is saying that, hey, as a team, we are going to succeed, maybe we take turns at being leaders, or maybe we take turns at figuring out whose idea it is, then I think that is what women can do as they slowly get into leadership positions. Now, how they get in there is a hard, that's a hard question. There is no one answer for that.
Yeah.
I unfortunately, I don't have the answer for that, right?
Yeah, we are still figuring out that aspect of it.
Yeah, we still figure. Yeah,
But I
exactly.
think we have come a long path, I would say, because thanks to several strong women leaders that we've had and good experiences, even companies right now have started looking at different styles of leadership compared to what probably I'm sitting in Silicon Valley. So definitely, the typical aggressive Silicon Valley style of leadership has, yeah, that is actually evolving slowly.
The tech pro culture, yep.
Yeah, so more of a little more empathetic and little more nurturing values that women bring in are being taken seriously and into consideration. In fact, one point which you touched upon was very interesting. You said that you had great role models when you started your work, women leaders to look for, and they actually shaped up you. That brings me to the question of the importance of women leaders in any organization. What do you think about that? Why we should have more and more role models in an organization?
So very important, right? So I think from multiple perspectives. So we've seen this thing of biases in software or biases in products, right?
Mm-hmm.
Companies create products and services. The people that create products and services, the products and services are a reflection of the people that create it.
Yeah.
Right. So, let's actually take a look at it from two perspectives. One is from an external perspective as to why women are required, and the second one is from an internal perspective, right? From an external perspective, we've seen lots of research that when there are women in executive ranks, the companies do well. Why? Because their products and services are better, because of which more people buy it, because companies create products and services for everybody, not just for men, right? So having women is obviously important. So the research has shown that. Now, when you are a junior person in an organization, and if all that you see is the CXO suite and the next level down, if all you see are men, that also brings a little, it is hard for you to even imagine yourself there.
Yes.
Because the expectation is that, so that changes the way you think, that changes the way you behave, because you're not seeing
you automatically become mentally there is a block that comes in saying that okay, whatever I do, I'm not going to become the CEO. So
there is no representation, right? So having that representation is important, one, and that representation doing the right things is also important, because if you see that, hey, for you to be at that level, you have to behave like a man, and you have to be part of the club and behave exactly like that. That is also, again, you are, even though it might be, diverse people creating the product, if everybody is kind of behaving the certain way, I mean, there is really no difference. Then it's not a well thought out diverse product. You are still having that masculine thinking, if you will, right? So coming back to the question, the role model is important, representation is important, and the role modeling behavior is important. So when I started off my career, the behavior that I saw there was, it was not, hey, it happened to be women, but they're behaving like guys. They ran their teams completely differently, right? And it was, I saw respect, I saw collaboration, I saw, representation. So that did make a huge difference for me as to what I thought I could be or what I could do.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a very interesting point what you said about collaboration and communication, because if it is, recently I think I saw a meme or a joke where it said that I mean, in our group meeting, as a woman, I said that I want to express my ideas or something like that, and the man on the other side said, yes, she wants to express. Basically, he was trying to say,
mansplain?
I mean, he didn't even allow her to speak. Basically, this is what he was. So he assumed that this is what she wanted to express. So anyway, I think that's a common problem that women generally face in workplace, that their opinions and suggestions are either nullified easily or even considered as a lower idea, or rather not taken much seriously. That is something which is quite a challenge, but a lot of sensitivity training and awareness and things that are happening in bigger companies right now, thanks to that, we can slowly evolve into that phase of where
Right.
women are taken very seriously for what they are saying. It's just that
Right.
we bring a different perspective to the table. All right. So with that, I think we've spoken a lot, I guess. Let's probably talk a little bit about, I mean, this is a question which I don't generally like to ask, but everybody makes me ask, is about the personal and the family life. When it comes to women being a leader. Because why I ask this question is there are many women, even now, who think that um, when you aspire for bigger things, it means that you will have to lose out on your family life.
Mhm.
That is one reason why many women are still not taking that plunge into higher roles, whether it is in
Mhm.
the corporate or in this thing. So what is your idea about that, and how we as a society, I know this is a general societal problem, it's not an individual thing, there's a lot of other things that is associated with it, but still, what do you think about that, like how women can manage their work life and family better?
There's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, there is only 24 hours in a day. And then you have to choose what you do with those 24 hours, right? So my technique has always been that I prioritize whatever I think is most important. I prioritize, which means that there are certain things that I might not do, right? Like, for example, from our conversation, you already know that I'm a very process oriented person, right? So I don't believe in figuring things out from scratch every single day.
Yeah.
Like certain things that I can do together, like for me, having family meals is very important.
Mm.
But when you come home at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock every day, you don't have the time to cook family meals. So what I would do is I would do that over the weekend. So
Yeah.
we would still have home cooked family meals,
Yeah.
but I would not be cooking every day, right?
Yeah.
So there are things like that that you can actually
Plan in
do
advance.
with
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
exactly, right? So a lot of the things actually can be solved with planning, not everything.
Yeah.
A lot of the things can be solved with planning and prioritization.
Exactly.
So, see, at the end of the day, if you say, I want to wake up in the morning and then I want to figure out what today looks like on
No,
that day, it's
I
not going to
don't
work,
believe in that. If you ask any
right?
successful person, no.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work, right? So, there are certain things that you have to do from a planning, prioritization, and all of that perspective because it is 24 hours, but what you do with the 24 hours, it's your choice,
Yeah.
nobody else's choice. And it all comes back to what do you want? When you want something really badly, you will figure out a way to do it. If you're doing something, maybe you don't want something badly, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with somebody saying, hey, my lifestyle is more important. That is what I want to do. If that is what you want, you do you. But if somebody says, I really want this, but I'm not able to because of all this reason, family, this, that, you can figure out how to solve for it.
Yeah.
Get help, prioritize, be organized. There's all kind of things you can do, right? Get your spouse to help.
Mm.
There's all kind of things like that that you can do if you want it,
Exactly.
right? So at least that is the way I deal with it.
That's wonderful. I mean, of course, it's like I would say if a man wants to do something, he just has to do it. But for a woman to do something, there are so many other things that has to fall into place, and for that,
Absolutely.
she has to actually work towards putting those things
Totally.
first in place before actually doing
Very true.
it.
Very true.
That's
Very
how it
true. I
works.
was actually when I was doing my MBA, first day we had the orientation, and they said, "Hey, how many people here with one kid?"
Mhm.
Okay. At the time, I think it is me and another person, a guy. And then how many with two kids? It was me. The kids were 2.5 and 1.5.
Oh, okay.
When I was doing my MBA part time while I was also working. with my husband traveling and doing his MBA.
Hmm.
And people are like, are you nuts? Are you
Yeah.
crazy? Because my answer was, I want it so bad.
Yeah.
I want this and this. So then, unfortunately, I didn't sleep much. But, I would not recommend that because you do need sleep, but you have to prioritize. You have to want it. And whatever
People
you
want
want,
it so badly.
yeah, exactly. Whatever you want badly, you will do. So I think that is why everything comes back to what you want. If you want it, you will figure out how to do this. If you want something badly, then there are no excuses.
Right. Of
You know,
course. All right, so I think this was fantastic conversation with you, Deepa, and your journey as an entrepreneur as a woman leader is really inspiring, and I'm sure a lot of women will be inspired by your words that you spoke today and the lovely conversation that we had. And as you rightly said, once we figure out what we want, and everything can fall into place, and uh, I think women should be flying high everywhere, and women should be uh, doing bigger things, not just limited by their thoughts and mindsets. I'm sure your story as well as your words will resonate with a lot of people, and I'm hoping to see much more bigger and greater initiatives from your side. I wish you all the very success for your journeys as well as all the future ventures that you are planning to start, because I believe that an entrepreneur is always an entrepreneur, and once you do something, you always have the tendency to start more and more businesses. So I always see, especially people who are really enterprising like you, I'm sure you will be coming out with more and more new ventures. I wish you all the very best for all that. Thank you once again
thank you.
for being part of the SheSight podcast.
Thank you, Chandra. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much.